about. There are many, many, many people with tattoos and piercings. That cuts out a lot of people for a period of time. We're a very mobile society, and if you've been to certain countries within a certain amount of time, no, you can't donate for a certain period of time. Not only can you not donate if you have cancer, you can't donate for like 5 years after you're cancer free. That's huge. Think about how many people have cancer. Many medications, not just street drugs, but regular medications, disqualify you from giving blood. Even aspirin. How many people are on an aspirin a day? No blood donation. Okay? So we have a lot of things that will disqualify you from being able to give blood. So right there, that cuts down our population. So it's really, really important that people who can donate do. And that's why we're very aware of protecting our youngest donors. People who are coming up to be part of our donor population, if they don't know how to protect themselves from these things and what would disqualify them from being a donor, they might disqualify themselves without even knowing before it's too late. And it's too late, and they haven't even considered it. And then there's the needle phobes. Okay, so they use a needle. It's a big needle. Don't look at it. It only hurts for like 1 second when they put it in there, and then it's done. But that 1 second could save up to 3 lives with one donation, depending on what they do with that donation. Sometimes they keep red blood cells, whole blood. That's our most common transfusion product is whole blood, red cells, packed red cells. But when you studied, you noticed the clotting factor chart of Cascade, how there are like 12 different factors involved in a normal clotting process. Every single one of those has to be extracted from a blood transfusion. So you might be a person who has hemophilia, for example, and you need certain clotting factors. That's where they have to come from, a donation. Or you might have a certain kind of cancer, or you're not producing the right clotting factors that you need. Because if even one of those things in that clotting factor is missing, your blood won't clot, and you bleed. Childbirth, okay, or trauma. We have what we call DIC. I think that stands for disseminated inter-something clotting. In other words, you are bleeding, you're bleeding, we're giving you blood, you're bleeding, we're giving you blood, you're bleeding, we're giving you blood, and after a while, no clotting factors left. Because that whole blood doesn't necessarily contain everything we need for the clotting factors. All right? So, millions of reasons why people need blood in the first place. And then we have this population that is very apathetic about blood safety and blood donation. Everybody's busy. Nobody wants to take the time. I recently was at Children's Hospital in Denver, and there's a big sign as you walked in the door, they needed plasma. Bad. We need plasma bad today. We don't have enough for today. Plasma. Can you give plasma? And I was there to visit someone, and I was going to have to be there a while because they were having surgery. And I was like, heck yeah, I can go give plasma while I wait for, that to get done. And she's right, it takes a couple hours to give plasma, okay? Because you sit there and they take it out, then they put in certain things, and it's a process, okay? You don't have to know that. But it takes a while, okay? And then they have to match it. So it might not work for the person. Also, I got all done, I gave my plasma, and then about a week later, I got a message in the mail that they couldn't use my plasma because I had certain antibodies. Well, when I started, that kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies. So I started looking up what those antibodies are. Well, I have 9 kids, so I've given birth 9 times, okay? And your body, my body had produced certain antibodies during that period of time, and it has to do with positives and minuses, and you don't have to know all that. However, they couldn't use it for that particular use. Now, it doesn't mean they threw it out. Somebody else could use it. But they were desperate for plasma that day. We have such a limited supply. If we have a national disaster, like for example, and you're all pretty young, but when 9/11 occurred, not enough blood. There was not even close to enough blood. They were taking blood from people off the street constantly because they didn't have enough blood. And when you need blood, you need it now, not in an hour, and you need it bad. We have even changed our criteria for when we transfuse. When I started as a nurse, we would transfuse at 9 or 10. Now, sometimes we wait till 7 or 8 to transfuse because we just don't have enough to transfuse at that higher level. Sometimes our blood supply is so critically short that they change the criteria for who they'll take blood from. I have a son who had open heart surgery when he was a baby. And this was before AIDS was a big thing, but people were starting to talk about it, but it wasn't like we know a lot about it now and how rampant it is. Well, we fought like cats to be able to give our own blood for his transfusions because we didn't want just random blood off the street. And at that point, we had to jump through so many hoops to get that done. Now, you can do that because people understand the significance of it and the importance of it to know where that blood supply came from. Blood is expensive. Like transfusion, if you look on your bill in the hospital, it's expensive. You're not paying for the blood. The blood was given free. What you're paying for is the processing, the storage, the testing. That blood is tested for so many things before it's given. But even so, sometimes there's things that we don't know and we have reactions. So what are some symptoms for reactions?
Hives.
Fever, chills, what else did you say? Flushing, yeah, right? Itching. Back pain, good one. Why would that be? Because of your kidneys. What filters? Yeah. Okay, so it may not be something bad in the blood, but some incompatibility in the blood. As a nurse, when you go to give blood,
like donate it or like transfuse it?
Transfuse it. When you're the nurse and you're transfusing blood to a patient, you first have to check the blood out from the lab. Okay, so your patient has a band with specific information on it. Anybody know what's on there? It has yellow stickers. What do those yellow stickers correspond to?
Blood type?
No.
It's what's on
The units, the unit they have cross-matched. We draw their blood, it gets sent to the lab where it is typed and cross-matched for as many antibodies and things that we can test, that we can cross-match it for, so that we can give the very best transfusion possible for that patient, okay? On the band is their name, of course, their patient number, their age, all those things, their blood type, if we've already typed that, and that's what's on their band is the number, okay? So, you have to give blood. You go to the lab, and you check it out, the unit of blood from the lab, okay? That means the lab person is reading all the information from that blood bag, and you are double checking with that person. So it's double checked in the lab. Then you take the unit up the stairs, or wherever, to your patient, and you have to hang the blood. You have to have another RN check with you before you can hang that blood. You're going to check it from the patient band. You're going to check it on the label that's on the blood. And it gets double checked again. Okay? So that blood has actually been double checked 3 times because the lab did it before you. So you've double checked to make sure that it's the right blood for that patient. Not to mention all the testing that's gone on behind the scenes. So then, you hang the blood, and you hang it on Y tubing. You'll learn this later. But you hang it on Y tubing. Have you gone over this before? So you've got the blood, and you've got your normal saline, and it has to be normal saline. We don't hang it with anything else. Nothing else. Because normal saline is what?
Water.
No. It's hypotonic, or isotonic. Isotonic. So it's not going to change, your cells, right? Okay. It's neutral, so to speak. Okay, so you've got a clamp here, and you got a clamp here, and this one goes to your patient. Okay. You got normal saline running. When you go downstairs, before you go to get the blood, you make sure your IV's good. You make sure that it's not sluggish, it's not red, it's not swollen, your IV's good. And it's running normal saline. Then you hang your blood, right? Close this clamp. Open this clamp, in that order, because if you don't, if you open this clamp before you, and you got this one running, you know what's going to happen? This blood, and your blood's gone. Because you just filled it full of water. So, close this one, open this one. Then your blood can flow to your patient. How fast can you give it? You can give it as fast as you want. Your order should say how fast it can be given. A unit of blood is approximately 300 mils. Approximately 300 mils. It's not always exactly 300 mils. Sometimes your order will say give it over 3 hours, or give it over an hour, or give it over however long, over 4 hours. The longest this blood can hang, 4 hours. It cannot hang longer than 4 hours because of contamination and temperature and all those things. Maximum 4 hours. That includes the time from when you started checking. Okay? So from the time you check it out to the time you hang it better be minutes. Because that time is ticking. Alright? So you don't mess around. You go get the blood, you hang the blood, you start the blood, and you don't mess around and get stuck in between hanging up with something else hanging up blood. Okay? What if your patient's going to get 3 units of blood? New tubing every time, because this tubing's been up here more than 4 hours. And you never contaminate your old tubing in a new bag of blood. Always start with new tubing. If your patient should have a blood reaction, what do?
Stop it.
Immediately clamp this, open this, and open it as wide open as you can to start flushing that blood, or flushing the blood out of the patient and giving the fluid. What else do you do? Yeah, call, quick. Don't leave your patient. Because if you figured out they're having a reaction, that's a reaction, right? So you might have shortness of breath, you might have itching, you might have all kinds of symptoms going on, but your patient is your priority. So yes, you call for help. Somebody else can call the doc or can get whatever. The next thing you want to get is a set of vitals. Well, after you've done this and called for help, so they can call the doc, you get a set of vitals. Because you don't want to know that. Sometimes we pre-treat patients before we hang blood. We will give them, sometimes we give Tylenol. Sometimes we give Benadryl. Those are the two most common things to give. Once in a while, if we have a patient who has really fragile cardiac-wise, we might even give them some Lasix. What are some things that you need to watch for if you're hanging blood on your patient? Besides the reaction things of fever and itching and shortness of breath and those kind of things. What else? What are you assessing on this patient?
The IV side.
The site? Good.
So how like the blood is flowing correctly.
Good. You're first going to get, as soon as you hang, before you even start the blood, when you've hung everything's up here ready to go, but you haven't opened this clamp yet, you want a set of vitals. And you want the exact time that you started that blood. Okay? 15 minutes later, you're going to get another set of vitals. And I always try to get one 5 minutes after I start it. I do it, when I start it, I do it again at 5 minutes, I do it again at 15 minutes. But you should stay in the room for 15 minutes at least, because if you have a blood reaction, it's most likely going to happen in the first 15 minutes.
Can they happen like after that 15 minutes still? I mean,
No, they can, but most of
It's
the
just
time,
mostly-
it's most common in the first 15 minutes. So you want to really stay there and be on top of your game. Listen for lung sounds. Watch for fluid overload. Because you're putting in a lot of fluid. Even if this was only running at 50 to keep the vein open while you were getting ready to give the transfusion. So say it ran for half an hour at 50, so you got 25 there and you put in 300 here and they wanted this over an hour. You just gave 325 mils of fluid in an hour. That's a lot. We would never hang an IV really at 325 unless the person was dehydrated or in serious dehydration status. But here we are giving this huge volume of blood and it all goes in the pipes. Now, probably their pressure is going to be a little low when you start, but maybe not. So you got to watch those vitals. Anytime you feel like you need to, get another set of vitals. If you feel like something might be changing, get another set of vitals. Talk to the patient. The patient is a grand indicator of what's going on in their body. And they may not even realize what's going on. But can they still have a nice conversation with you? Do they appear like relaxed? Are they anxious? Are they jittery? What's going on? That blood is cold because it comes out of they don't warm it up necessarily. Sometimes they do, but most of the time it's not warmed up. So then you put in all that cold fluid, that makes you kind of cold. But it shouldn't make you, it shouldn't give you rigors.
Can you put like warm blanket over them?
You can give them a warm blanket, but be careful with that because that might be a symptom.
Right.
You know, that just might be a symptom. So giving blood is a big deal. It's a big deal. Any questions about that? You you'll learn way more about that later on when you talk about IVs and learn about that, which in this class we don't actually give IVs, but as an, even as an LPN, you might monitor that. And you certainly might have a patient who's getting blood that you are taking care of. So, and checking blood out, everybody can do, even aides do that, check out blood. I used to work in a very small hospital, and we didn't have a lab person. We would have, the blood would be in the refrigerator, and we might have blood in there, we might not, and we might have a whole bunch of it, and it might be for more than one patient. So we had to check out our own blood and check it with the other nurse, but it's always checked by 2 nurses, always, before it's home.
Is that part of like your normal labs? Like when your patient comes in, do they automatically cross match?
Nope, not unless they think they might need blood. Then they will have an order that says type and cross match.
Okay.
Most surgical patients will have a type and cross match, but not always. I mean, really minor stuff, sometimes they don't, but most of the time those patients will. Because it takes time to type and cross match, and if your patient needs blood all of a sudden and you haven't type and cross match, that takes time. And that, you know, that becomes a priority, of course, in the lab, but it still takes a certain amount of time to do it. And when you need blood, you need blood. I remember one time when I was a new nurse, we had this gentleman, of course, when you're a new nurse, you get to work the night shift, which is good and bad, because the pace is usually a little slower at night, because like, there's not docs writing orders every 2 minutes, and there's not all the ancillary staff running around doing stuff. So your time is a little more regimented, but the downside of it is, if you really need help, there's nobody else there, okay? You have to call somebody. And especially that is true in a small hospital. Because at night, it would be myself and one other nurse, and sometimes we have an aide till 10, and we had to watch the OR in case someone would come in. If somebody came in to have a baby, we had that. We had all the patients on the floor, and we had to watch the emergency room. Holy schmoly, it was like a mass unit. I'm not kidding you. Okay, so one night we had this gentleman who they should have transferred early in the day, and they didn't. They sat on him. And he ended up with a AAA, which is an abdominal aortic aneurysm. Probably you will never see one in your life. Hopefully you will never see one in your life. As a new nurse, I saw 3 in 3 weekends.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I am cursed. Get me out of here. Only one of them survived. Okay. So this first gentleman, he came in and his belly was so distended and tight. Well, duh, we're bleeding. Okay. Now we might not have been bleeding like ripped open aneurysm. It might have just been leaking, but his belly was big and tight. Well, so about 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm checking this guy out, and he is miserable, and he's even more distended than he was the last time I checked him, which wasn't that long ago. And I'm like, this is not good. I'm like, I'm calling on this guy. His pressures are not stable. He's all over the place. He's miserable. He can't even sit up. He's so, okay? About that time, he blows, okay? Blood everywhere. On the ceiling, on the bed, on the,
From like,
just, oh yeah, because your aorta rips. That's your main artery.
Yeah.
Fountains of blood. We were pumping, and we had blood, but there's 2 of us. And I mean, it took, somebody had to go get the blood, somebody had to call for help, and we did that, we did all that. And it wasn't even 5 minutes, and the PA is running down the hall in his pajamas. And he's working on him. And we're calling for the helicopter, because we had to get a helicopter in there to get it. And we're an hour from Kearney, hour and a half by a car. But we'd get the helicopter there, and then take him in. And we have to clear the parking lot to get the helicopter in. 2 of us. Yeah, it sucks.
What hospital is that?
Oh, most little hospitals, honey. Be careful. It's really great education, but it's also very crude, elementary medicine. I mean, they do great stuff because they really care, but when bad stuff happens, there's just, it's not, you don't have everything at your fingertips. Snake bites. Snake bites. They're by the lake. We carry antivenom, okay? But how much antivenom do you need and how fast can you get it? Snake bites. Those western Nebraska hospitals, I don't know if Good Sam probably carries some snake bite stuff, some antivenom, but west of here, they carry a lot of it. McCook, Cambridge, Binkelman, all those places west of here, they carry a lot of antivenom because they use it. You don't even, you think, I can't prepare you for everything you're going to see, okay? So I'm going to teach you the main stuff that you're watching for, because your brain is going to tell you these main systems, I got to keep them working. I got to work on the symptoms, because I can keep people alive that way. But you can only do it if you rescue, if you stay alert so you can rescue. If you're in the nurse's station, hanging out, you don't know what's going on in your patient's room. The second AAA I had was a gentleman who walked in feeling miserable. He walked in, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, so the front door was still open. So he walked in the front door to the hallway by the nurse's station, and he was white as a freaking paper. And I walked him into a wheelchair, and my coworker called for an order, and I didn't even wait for it. We just went to the to get a CT for him. He gets up out of the wheelchair to get onto the bed for the CT, because by now the person's arrived. 5 minutes. These people are on call, man, in these little hospitals. But between the wheelchair and the bed for the CT, he went down, threw up, burst, dead. We're doing CPR on the floor in puke and blood on our hands and knees at 9 o'clock at night. We didn't even have enough room in there to do CPR in that little tiny room. We ended up dragging him out in the hall by his feet to do CPR. No help. And emergency. I don't think anybody would have saved the guy. I don't think any hospital could have saved him because he ripped. Okay, that was my second AAA. That was my second weekend to work. My third weekend to work, the unit comes in with this old lady from the nursing home, and she is like dead basically when they brought her in. But that's what had happened. AAA, the doc was there because we knew the unit was coming, so we could call him, and he was really good doc. And that's when I learned about an interosseous needle, an interosseous IV. Have you ever seen one or heard about it? It goes into the long bone of the leg. Oh, it's nasty. I can't imagine how bad that would hurt. This guy's big, strong doc. Boom! As hard as he can, because God get into that bone. And that's where he was going to get put the IV. We were going to put blood into her. Yeah, big. Yes, it's a military. The military does it a lot because these people are bleeding massively. It's the only hope you have of getting enough in it fast enough. You can squeeze blood. I have held the bag and squeezed it to get it in faster. You can run blood wide open as fast as it will go in. But once you open it wide open and your pump will go to 999, okay? That's 1,000 mils per hour. That's all for faster your pump will go. But if you squeeze it, you can get it in faster. Don't want to do any of those things. But I'm telling you, you gotta learn how to rescue. And if you can't figure out what's going wrong, and you can't read the signs that their pulse is increasing. Why is it increasing? Because they need more blood. Why do they need more blood? Well, it's leaking out somewhere. Or they don't have any red cells and they're anemic. Or what is the reason their pulse is going up? What's happening to their pressure? They're widening between the low number and the high number. Why is that happening? Well, because they don't have enough volume, so this is getting low when it rests, and they're working like heck to pump it, so it's up here. What's the strongest chamber of your heart? I forgot to tell my last class this, and Heidi told me they don't know what's the strongest chamber of their heart. I thought you knew that from A&P. Think about it. Which chamber of your heart would have to be the strongest?
Right ventricle,
Why?
because it's receiving the blood and it has to push it.
It has to pump it out. That is correct. The ventricle, right ventricle. It gets that blood, it fills, and has to push it out. So if your heart is enlarged from chronic overwork, because of some reason, why would your heart be enlarged from chronic overwork? Why would your heart get enlarged? It's a freaking muscle. Why would it enlarge? Because it's working too hard chronically. So pretty soon your heart's enlarged. What happens to that right ventricle or left ventricle? No, it gets thick. So it doesn't hold as much, so it doesn't feel as good, so it can't inject as good, and your ejection fraction goes to pot. I didn't say that. Okay? You gotta think in these terms. If this happens, then what will happen? Then what could happen? Then what could happen next? What is my worst case scenario? If you can't think in those terms, you can't rescue. So that's what I gotta teach you how to do in this class, and you've never done that before. But you'll get good at it after a while. So you got to start with what I'm seeing. Why am I seeing this? What could be causing these symptoms I'm seeing? These signs that I'm seeing. What's causing this? And then you got to start ruling them out. That's what your doctor does. He just paid a lot more for his education than you. And he has to take more responsibility too. But you, if you can't rescue, he can't do his job because he never gets to the patient. Okay? That's your job, to rescue. Do you need a break? 2 minutes? I mean, like, literally 2 minutes. If you need to go pee fast, this is your chance.